So welcome everybody to Serendipity Story Time. I have great pleasure introducing a lovely friend of mine. His name is Srini. He is at the moment in Ilford, Essex, at his mum's place. And Srini, it's been a while since we've seen each other, but we had a good chat recently. And I said I would love to capture some of our conversation on film. So that's what we're doing here this evening. So how are you doing today?
I would say up and down. I've had a whirlwind of a day, in and out of meetings and just running around, not composing myself and living in the moment, I'd say.
Headless
Definitely,
chicken.
yeah. Been thinking about what I've got to do rather than actually sit down and get it done. But yeah, it's been a good day nonetheless. I've made it through.
Ah, you made it through.
Yeah,
Another one, right?
yeah,
That's it. Another day. So,
yeah.
Shani, I would love to. We had a really interesting conversation the other night, and we were talking about what you're up to recently, and you're doing some fantastic work, right? Working with the youth, and would you tell me? Would
Yeah.
you tell me a bit more about that, or would you tell anyone who's listening a little bit more about
So it actually started with, I've always worked with young people from I was about 14, 15 when I was being mentored. So when I last year, after I lost my dad, I got a job in finding young people work. So it was in Hertfordshire, part of an organization called CGL, who I'm currently kind of with half and half. And then I went from working in Hertfordshire, which was too far, and it wasn't, I almost felt like I wasn't getting the young people any work. It felt like it was just for a project's sake. That's it. It wasn't personal to me. So I reapplied for a recovery practitioner position, which was like striking gold almost. But in the process of doing that, I had not got two jobs that I had applied for. So I'd gone for the interview and not got the job. So kind of was a bit disheartening at that time, thinking, I'm the perfect person, like when you saw me. So I was like, oh, but I'm the guy for this. Like, you don't need me, sort of thing. But clearly they didn't and had other plans. So then I applied for a recovery practitioner job, and it just happened to be in Habron. And I applied thinking it was an adult service, as the post got um, um, sent out, but it was actually for young people. So the fact that I'm from that side and the fact that it's from young people, it was just like, it was a no-brainer for me to take that position. So yeah, then I started working in Havering Council and then moved over into doing young offenders work with them. So just a bit about offending, peer pressure, gang crime, just all the things what happen in most streets, most places. I won't just, pin it down to just London. So yeah, it's just about working with young people and how can we help them rather than penalize them? Like, rather than putting them through the court system constantly, how can we be of a service for them? So it's an eye opener, to be honest. It's really opened my eyes in terms of how professionals, the gap between professionals to young people, that professionals, us feeling like we're towering over them almost. But then my experiences of, let's say, coaching young people came from, I've always learned when coaching, say, little children 1 to 5, to get eye level with them. In order for you to get eye level with someone, you can't always do it physically. Sometimes it has to be in the mental and in the way you carry yourself. So it was just about bringing myself not down, but to their level and understanding rather than agreeing with what they do. So yeah, that's what led me into doing work with youth, and it's opened so many other doors for me, to be honest. But we'll get into that. Yeah.
Wow. So it's colourful, right? I mean,
Oh,
these these,
definitely.
these kids' stories, I mean, wow, we you know, I don't know whether it's that we complicate life or we just misunderstand life or it's very dramatic. Like, but some people's lives, there's a lot more happening, than others. And I think,
For sure.
what are you happy to share, Srini, about your kind of story and growing up and how you kind of, you know,
Um,
what,
yeah.
what
So I'm from like, um, I'll touch on some of the stuff that I'm not yet processing that I've already processed, because I feel like I can only speak on things with showing both ends of it. So I can't just say the bad without understanding actually where it's brought me to today. So I'll touch on what's helped me change rather than what just is deemed as you know, bad in that sense of life. So I grew up in East London, a place called Newham. Um, it's home to me, it's still home to me till today. Um, I grew up around, I wouldn't say poverty, like I'm from a really good family in terms of financially and nurturing and love wise. But my childhood, like piecing things that I have pieced back together was from the age of about 6 to about 10. I was always on my own. So I know social services, don't get onto me, I'm grown now. But my mum and my dad, they used to work 2 jobs. So they used to leave, I used to go home from school by myself, from primary school. Spend most of my time by myself. So I had imaginary friends, I had everything but real people around me. It grew me in a way of I didn't know that it actually caused any disservice to me in that sense. But
Mhm.
now piecing back together my past to where it ended up, it was more so like that definitely had a part to play in always wanting to be loved, always wanting to be fitting into groups, and always feeling like the outsider, even when I wasn't. So yeah, that brought me to about 13, I'd say. 13, yeah, I dabbled in a bit of weed. Um, from smoking it, it went to, oh, hey, I can make money from this. And I don't have to, because if I'm going to mum and saying, mum, can I have £5 for school or £1 for school as it was in those days, or 20p's and 30p's, to mum, can I have a fiver? So, but my mum started saying, what do you need £5 for? You was going to school perfectly well with 20p and 30p. Now all of a sudden you need not even just 70p more, you need a whole couple pound more. But I wasn't seeing it as a child. I'm thinking I'm smart. Mum's not gonna know. I can make up, and every day I used to have a new excuse. Oh, mum, today they're selling a new type of food in the playground. Or mum, they're doing something like art group, and in PE we've got to give this much to go youth centre, and but it was all to just smoke some cannabis, to be honest. It then led me to like finding out, hey, actually I can sell what I've got, smoke for free, and everybody around me smoking anyway. So instead of them buying from somebody else, they can just buy from me. Now looking back, I know how bad it is, but at the time I was like, if I don't sell it, somebody else is going to sell it to you anyway. So I'm just going to get in there before so and so gets in there. I know it sounds like I justified it for a long time, for a good 15 years. I've spent justifying it. That led me to just in and out of situations, which I don't really like to go into. But it put me in a spot where I now felt like this is what I know to do. So, like anybody else at 16 would have got a job. I thought, job? What, to go and get paid for this much? No, no, thank you. How can I just go and sell or go and get up to no good and I'll still make the same money everybody else is making? Plus, I'm young, so I can always get away with it. You know, it's that innocence in you. So that come from takes me up to about 19. So I tried to go university. Well, I did at the time, and
Oh,
it was a different area for me to continue the same activity. It was just a home away from home. I lived out with one of my pals, one of my good friends that at the time, and he got to doing just what I'm doing, but he's doing his uni work. He's waking up and going lectures on time. Whereas me, I'm so high from the night before, I can't function in the next day. But I'm thinking, but he can do it. So clearly, but I've never differentiated who I was as an individual. I'm all seeing myself as a collective all the time. So then it got to a stage where I ended up selling on campus, not going to my lectures, and ended up getting kicked out.
yeah.
When I got kicked out, it became serious because now I've got a roof over my head that I can't pay for. Because how am I going to justify to the banks going and putting this much money in? Well, you're not in uni, you don't have a job. But all of that just now started to resonate with me like, oh my days, you only was feeling scared, not because you got caught, you literally felt scared because you thought, now what am I going to do? I've got all this money, but I can't do anything with it. I can't pay my rent, I can't buy anything because nothing seems like it's got a trace, a paper trail. That took me to about 2 years of doing nothing. So it brings me up to about 21 with some other stuff in between. At 21, funny enough, it was my mum God bless her. Yeah, it was my mum. She found an apprenticeship for me, which was a fitness apprenticeship. So I done my sports level 2 and my personal training level 3, which qualified me as a personal trainer. But all the while, I'm thinking I can do everything this way, so everybody else's attention is diverted. It's always about being sneaky for me, I think. So that whilst everybody's over there, I can just still be selling over here. And now the heat's off my back, because before I was selling with no job. Now I'm selling and I've got a job. So you guys can't question me anymore. And they didn't, to be honest, quite frankly. Nobody questioned me and it just ran through. But in the midst of me working in the gym, I'm getting up to no good. Now my drug use is escalated. Now I'm starting to see different drugs. I'm around different people. I'm starting to see the drug that ended up bringing me back on my knees, which was MDMA. And I'm constantly popping pills in the night to sell, to be able to go to work in the morning, to come back home, to have a little nap, and then to sell through the night again so I can go to work again. That's what I initially justified it with, but it wasn't that. It was just that was the only time I had to use, so I used, sort of thing. I used to carry drugs with me. I used to sell from my gym. I used to sell to members. So all the while, I keep this big attitude of, oh, Srini's this lovely, health conscious, everybody loves him, but under the carpet, I'm all doing different deals. That went on to different deals to doing just a bunch of stuff in fitness first. Yeah, no good stuff. Like
naughty stuff.
Naughty, very naughty, Amanda. Very, very naughty. Now looking back on it. And I ended up getting kicked out because one of my friends who I closed the gym with every night, ended up having a party there. Now I'm from the mentality of you don't tell on anyone. That's been instilled in me from young because of the life I live. So when I had come in the next morning, they found alcohol everywhere and sticky and the door's not been locked. But I've already gone home prior to this the night before. I've gone home like a whole 3 hours before this started. And I remember, I will never forget, England and Ukraine were playing. It was like June the 27th or something. It was a Thursday. So the next day is a Friday. And they've just gone to the cameras and they've seen everything on the cameras. But I've walked in now first for my evening shift, for the 12 o'clock shift. So as I've gone in, my manager and a few other people were like, can you come into the office? And I thought, oh, what's going on here today? Why do they ever want to speak to me? They blaze me in front of everyone. They put me on blast in front of the whole gym. So I thought, what's so special you don't want to take me in to the side? But I had just got a promotion at another gym in Highbury. So I'm in the weeks of transition. And I'm like, all I had to survive was 2 more days there and I would have got my new job the Monday after. So I'm going to the office thinking, oh yeah, everyone's happy that I got this new post and so and so. Gone in the office and my manager's like, okay, so what happened yesterday? I'm saying, I don't know. But I genuinely didn't know. But a part of me did, now being truthful, because I've seen the Snapchats and the Instagram videos of these lot having a party in the gym. So I put 2 and 2 together thinking, oh, here we go. So they've gone, okay, who's done it? We've seen the cameras. So my cheeky answer was, if you've seen the cameras, then you know who's done it. Why are you asking me for? Like, you clearly can see I wasn't there. And it was like, oh, but this isn't the streets. You need to stop thinking like it's the streets and this code of conduct that you're keeping up. This is the professional work. Then they've asked me again, we know who's done it. You know who's done it. So just give us the name. I'm thinking, no, that's really cheeky of you lot. Because if you don't know, that person's also in the building right now. So pull up that person. Why? You've got me to basically just, solidify your evidence and just say that it wasn't the cameras that you saw it on. I said it too. But I wasn't preparing to budge. And it was crazy because I always say this, and I say this to all young people, if you've not been involved in something, if you've done it, then by all means, you can't be telling on other people. But if you've not done something, don't put your livelihood down for the sincerity of somebody else, because more time, 9 out of 10 times, not reciprocal. In this situation, it was. So then my friend had come running into the office and he's like, it was me. But by that time, I'd already been fired for not saying what I was going to say. Yeah. So when he's come and said, oh, it was me, they said, oh, was it? Then you're fired because Srini's just took the rap. So now you're both fired. I'm thinking, oh, why did you come in? Like, it could have just gone, like, you would have got away with it, sort of thing. Because it got to a point, they were pressing me so much, they were trying to say police is going to get involved and misconduct, and there was alcohol in the building, and there was things being thrown, and there was girls and promiscuity happening, and just a load of madness. So I said, listen, if you're thinking it's me, then it's me. Then we'll leave it as that, and I'll walk around. I'll walk off with my head held high. As I'm saying that, this boy's running. It wasn't him. It was me. I was like,
So the game, it's like the game, hey, you were caught up, you know, you're caught
yeah,
up well.
but I always say this to say, I've never liked to say my story without putting it into perspective. I wasn't doing honest things in the workplace. So what happened to me wasn't just an inkling of me being myself and me holding it down to my truth. It was also that everything else you was doing in that gym, all the under the table things you was doing, and all the drugs and all of this is your karma now. Now you've got to reap what you sowed, and you've been sowing this for the last 3 years, and nothing's happened to you. You've got away scot-free with a promotion. You walk around here without no shoes, slippers, and socks, and you scream at people. It's gonna all come to a point where your professionalism is gonna get nipped in the bud, and that's what happened to me. So, but me just being myself, I speeched my way out of getting fired, ended up saying, listen, can I just hand in my notice and leave on immediate effect, which they allowed me to do. But my friend, they didn't allow him to do it because he was actually involved in it. So, and then he's come outside, and this is when life has rung true to me, even though I didn't change at that point. He came out and he said, Srini, this isn't the street. Why did you just not say my name? And that's what really took me back to my childhood. Like, yes, at that point in my life, I had to behave like that, but I no longer have to behave like that. I'm not in them positions anymore. I don't put myself around that. So, but it was a learning experience. And that, so 2014, and then my life spiraled out of control with the drugs. I was in and out of work, but the MDMA just had the better of me. It just, I was using, I got in a relationship with someone, didn't go according to plan. She's a wicked girl. I really, I want to say I messed it up because it was the bigger picture, but it definitely was something that I had a big part to play in. Once again, being, because I don't believe now dishonesty is not just lying. Dishonest is sometimes not going by just the normal way. Like I say normal, but just the peaceful way of living. I'm always trying to do things under the table. I'm always trying to cut a corner. And eventually it cut me with her. So yeah, my drugs took me to a place of mental health and other situations, other institutions. And yeah, it was like I'd use, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd use again. But through all of this, I always maintained my essence in terms of I always wanted to give back. I always wanted to do things for people, but I just didn't go about controlling and looking after myself the way I wanted other people to be looked after, if that makes sense. So yeah, and then that led me.
It's like the good boy, you know, the good boy is in there and was always trying to.
And he's like, he's itching to come out, sort
yeah,
of thing, yeah.
yeah. And then suddenly it just all comes together, right? Suddenly it kind of, so I don't know whether you call it you woke up or you saw the light or you heard something from within or you came to your senses or whatever it is, you know, and all of those experiences, Srini, really sound like they help you today working with the youth because you're seeing young people sort of get the same trouble that you got in, right? You're seeing people. But something that you said the other evening, which I really love, which is why I was like, stop, don't tell me anymore. I want to hear, you know, let's do this story time.
Yeah.
But you were talking about, and I loved it, the way you were talking about hearing people talk about addicts and hearing people talk about drug users and sort of saying that they're ill and they're sick and you had that insight like, I'm not sick.
No,
Right.
definitely not. I would say I wasn't with myself. If anytime you're living, if we want to call someone sick based on how they base their life on other people's experiences and opinions, then yeah, we can use the word sick very loosely. But I just believe I didn't live as Srini. I didn't live as Srini. I lived as everybody but Srini. So that's where I'd say my bad thinking or I'd say adverse thinking came into play. It wasn't Srini living out Srini's life, because if I had lived it out how I wanted to live it out, then it doesn't matter what my head tells me. It doesn't matter what any other human tells me. I'm going to live it by my core means. And I think it was just about everybody's so worried about how I've hurt everybody else, but I've hurt myself because I lived a lie, you know? So yeah, it's not like I lived the truth and I hurt everybody. I lived a lie about myself. So ultimately, as much as everybody else was hurt, I hurt myself more than I hurt anybody else. So yeah, that's, I wouldn't say that. I go into the rooms all the time. I've done a share the other day, and people say to me, oh, we all are the same. We all suffer from this illness. There's two parts of that. We all are the same, most definitely. I wouldn't put that past anyone. We all genetically makeup wise, we all are the same. But I'm not ill. I've now figured out I'm not ill. I'm no longer ill. I was misled by myself. So if we have two different people, the ego and the true you, my ego had the forefront of that journey of my life. Whereas the real me was that little boy itching to come out and just say, hey, I'm here, this is my life, not yours, sort of thing. Yeah. So once I've started now listening to myself, it's a lot more freer. Like, because the inner child doesn't worry about what other people think about me, whereas my ego does. Because I always base it back to like my nephews and my nieces. When they make silly faces or they do something and they're not doing it because, oh my God, everybody's watching me do something bad or do something, you know, weird. It's because they're just pure. They're just doing it out of how they want to behave themselves. Whereas now with experiences, we've learned, oh no, that's not good because of so and so. That's not good because they're gonna think weird of me. Or if I make a funny face or I, you know, use my hands to talk, this person's gonna think I'm this. And so none of it is what I think. Everything is what the world thinks about me as opposed to myself. So that's what was the light bulb moment.
I love that. I misled myself, right? And
Yeah.
there's so, for me, there's so much truth in that, because it's like our thinking, when we're in misguided thinking, so like you said, the mind, the mind's always trying to work for us. Like it's trying to work for us. But if we're off track, it's going to give us a lot of misguided thinking it's helpful, because we need excuses. We need excuses of why we're thinking the way we do. So it goes down that track. It goes with us. Like when we go off track, our thinking goes with us. When we're on track, our thinking's with us.
Goes with us, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we're, and so it's kind of like you just, we see that, but I think for me, understanding the signposts of when I am on track and when I'm off track is so helpful, because we know.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you touched on that, because I say this to a lot of people. Before somebody says something to me, whether they're happy for me or whether they're sad for me, or whether their body tells me and their face tells me before they actually open their mouth and put words together. So I now do that with myself. When my body tells me something's like, it's like today, when I woke up in the morning, I wasn't prepared, but my body was telling me, it was itching for me to go back in my house, but I based my life on experiences. If I don't have it, I don't have it. I'll deal with that when it comes. I'll deal with it when it comes. But had I just listened to my body in the morning, I'd have packed my bags correctly and I would have checked all my schedules and made sure this meeting that I didn't know was on. It was in my calendar. I just hadn't checked the two. So I just had left in that rush of the experiences. Now, if I'd gone for my essence, I would have known. So yeah, there is a few, I'd say, little triggers. I'd call them red flags, I'd say. Yeah.
And you know what? Those red flags, the signposts, the whatever, they let their, that's like, we could kick ourselves afterwards, because it's like, I knew it. Like I knew it. And there's nothing worse than not listening to yourself. Then you're kind of like, and the more that we see that, the more red flag signposts, whatever we see, we just, they're helpful for us. They're helpful for anybody. And then there comes a point, I think, where we ignore them. So we know they're there, but we don't want to see them. And then suddenly, I think understanding how all of that works, see them as a gift. See them as a gift. And that's a little bit like, it's trying to wake us up. It's like a little kid going, "Hey, mister, you forgot,
like someone tugging on you."
Yeah, that's what it's like, isn't it? A little like, hey, like you know, and we're like, go away, get off, you're getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
I haven't got time for you. I haven't got time for you. And then, you know, it would have saved us hours, or it would have saved
Hours of stress later on. If you had just paid attention for them 5 minutes and just sat back and thought, let me just breathe, let me just recoup and go forward. It's so tunnel vision that you think that 5 minutes I don't have, but you ended up losing 2.5 hours in the long run later on in that day. So had you just sat down for them 5 minutes and took a breather, you would have been 2.5 hours better later on in the day. So yeah, definitely. That I learned from it. I made a mistake today, so
yeah,
it's not
and
even like
we'll carry on, right? We'll carry on making mistakes, and we'll
no,
keep
for
learning.
sure. And like you said in the start, all of what I went through that was once deemed as bad in my society's eyes, and my mom and my auntie, is today my blessing, because they're what I can now give to the kids or to whoever I work with. So like I've been in meetings and people are like, "Oh, you're so knowledgeable of the streets and the gang," and they don't need to know I was involved. All they need to know is I know the information that they're after. So now that information that once would have been like, why do you know that stuff for? Is now like, oh my God, tell me more. Tell me more
Right.
about this
Yes, it's
information. Yeah,
valuable, right? It's like
definitely.
you've played undercover, you know, really
Exactly.
played undercover well, and you kind of really. So, Shrini, what is it that you wish for these kids? Like, what do you wish they could hear? What do you wish they could see? What do you see is
With
helpful for them?
with the young people is something I say to myself all the time. When you have done something a set way, and if you're not obtaining the results that you wanted to obtain from doing it in that specific manner, try something else. There's no harm in a lot of our young people. Like somebody said it to me, no names, but a young person said it to me today, funny enough. And he said, "Oh, I'm only doing so and so I can get money to open up a business." I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you know anything about accounting? Do you know anything about tax? Do you know anything about a business plan? Do you know anything about a business account or registering your business or a legal structure?" He said, "No, what's that?" I said, "And you're the same person that wants to open up this big business." So that a lot of them have got that drive in them, but I just want them to understand, if you've done, let's just say, the streets, just to speak for this, for the sake of this conversation, if you've now done the streets and the streets hasn't worked for you, it's got you endless trouble, it's got your friends in trouble, it's got prison and constant youth offending orders. How about you try it just the other way? Just maybe for a week, give that a go and see where it can lead you, because you've already, I wouldn't use the word failed, you've already seen that the outcomes of this isn't beneficial to you. Because if it was, you wouldn't come here and be upset at me that you have to be here today. You would be happy that you're here. You'd say, "Yeah, I don't mind." But a lot of them, 9 out of 10 of them, 10 out of 10 of them say, "Oh, I don't want to be here. Oh, this is long, or this is this." Okay, well, this is your result from your so and so's action. So a lot of them, I just want them to say, like, give it a go. If you give it a go and it doesn't work for you, I'm not here to tell you what to do, what not to do, but I'm just saying, give it a go. Like, and plus, when I was growing up and I saw a certain way of living, I used to think, oh, even though there's ups and downs in this way of living, it's okay, I shrug it off. But when I then realized and I see life as I see it today, I'm like, I didn't have to shrug that off. I could have shrugged myself off and just moved away from it. Instead, I kept putting myself as not the problem. I'm not the problem. I'm not the, everything else was the problem but me. Whereas if I at any point took myself out and said, which I did later, I'm the problem actually. Okay, wait a minute. Let me just take myself out and say, Srini, maybe you're not a good drug dealer because you keep getting caught. Like, maybe what you thought you was on the street, you're not that. And maybe because you keep getting in trouble with the law, that maybe it's not really for you. Maybe try something different. And it's like a lot of my young people say, "Oh, I've been to prison 5 times." My friend, you are not a good criminal then. You, of all people, need to leave the criminal life behind you. So it's just about kids understanding that there's no harm in saying, I wasn't successful at that. It just didn't work for me. And then I go about, you know, other things in life. And I think I always want young people to know, making money right now is not more important than time. It's never more important than time. Time is infinite. I mean, sorry, money is infinite. Time isn't. time is limited for us here in this earth, in this plane. So money is infinite. You could today have it all, tomorrow have nothing. Tomorrow have nothing and then have it all again. Whereas time, once that day is gone, that day is gone. That day is never coming back to you to catch up with you and say, hey, you missed Thursday, the 27th of June. Come back, I'm here again, live it. It's not gonna happen. Whereas that money that you had 10 days ago might come back into you. You know, you might be able to go get it again. So it's the time it takes you to set up your future. And I have a quote. I don't know if it's someone else's, but I feel like it's mine, so I'm gonna say it. I say you're older for a lot longer than you're younger. And I say that to a lot of my young people, and it goes over their head sometimes. The things that we do today in our 20s and our 10s and 30s, that from adolescence up to 30, shapes how we're now going to live from 40, 50, 60, 70, considering God bless, God willing, we all make it to 80 and them ages. So like looking even at my granddad, who passed away at 95, he lived 65 years going back for his wrongs. People never helped him because he was that guy that used to beat on his wife, and he was that person that was in a gang in Singapore and tarnished him with that stick. Even though 65 years he had worked, he had brought everyone to this country, he had endless illnesses, and even then he wasn't rude to anyone. He survived, and he was really caring still, even to the end. But we forget that those early years and those mistakes or those things we do kind of shapes us in the things we get back to us, that get given back to us. And karma I play on a lot of
that's interesting, Srini, isn't it? Because we do judge people on their behavior as humans, right? But we are not our behavior. Who we are, our behavior is the result of misled thinking, misguided thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Somewhere along the line, for your granddad to act in that way, he wasn't feeling his true inner self. He wasn't in his well-being. He wasn't feeling at the top of his game. Insecurity is behind all that kind of bad behavior, right? Somewhere along the line, because when we're feeling our security, when we're feeling our well-being, when we're in our true essence, it doesn't make sense to act like that, right?
No, it absolutely so true that my granddad being 95 when he passed away, he done so many good. I think everyone did, but I loved him to bits, even till his last days. And I'm the one that took him abroad and took him back to the villages and stuff. So even in that time, I just used to look, and he said something. He's never had this conversation, but he said something, and he goes, "If I could say one thing," because he felt like his time was coming, and he said, "If I could say one thing, I'll say, don't live half of your life." And he goes, "Don't let that go misunderstood." He goes, "Don't live half of your life." And now speaking on all these things, it rings true. Like even he realized that irrelevant of the mistakes he made, it was just humanly nature for him to not become his true self later on for them 65 years that he was, alive and nobody was dealing with him, and he used to stay closed in his room and no one didn't talk. So he was like, just don't live half of your life. And I think that's a very powerful saying for me, because I think for the 28 years, I'd say 27 years, I lived half of it in terms of spiritually and essence wise. I didn't live the full 20, I didn't embrace the full 27 years, which is not something I dwell on, but it's more now like, okay, I'm now going to live each moment, each day as Srini, If I want to leave my hair out and it's all bushy and everywhere, then I'll do that today. As long as it doesn't harm anyone, I don't believe you should be worried about how you are perceived to anybody. If you're malicious, then I can understand, but if you're genuine, just being a genuine soul, like there's times I might walk down to my mum and start singing Michael Jackson, and she's like, "You're annoying," and I'm like, as long as I'm not, am I really to the point where am I hurting you? She's like, "No, I just don't understand you. You're so weird." Yeah. She's like, "You're just weird," and I'm like, "Actually, did it make you laugh?" So yeah, and I like, it made me laugh too. So I'm gonna go about my business, mum. I'll see you later, sort of thing. So
It's like, what's not to love, right? I'm always saying, I'm a cute, am I? I'm cute.
yeah,
They're like that. They're like that. It's a bit weird too, but
yeah,
it's something about being playful, right? Being playful, and you've got this beautiful, this beautiful way, Srini, of being and bringing light and being
yeah.
love and light in the room, and I love that about you, And like every other human, you've got your good days and your bad days and your good moments and your bad moments, and
Mm-hmm,
sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down, and
mm-hmm.
it's even if we understand how some of this stuff works, just knowing a little bit of how it works is enough
Mm-hmm.
to kind of crack open the light a
Yeah,
bit. But it doesn't make us immune to it. Just because we understand how something works, it doesn't mean we're immune to not feeling.
of course, yeah.
But we understand it. Something happens. I think we don't fall down massive big rabbit holes like we used to.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely, and that's the key in this. I think I realized the one thing I do take from recovery, and I hold it close to my heart, it's okay to not be okay, or that saying of what okay even is. Like, so I don't have to feel 100% all the time, but if I've realized what I've done isn't making me feel 100%, then I know tomorrow to rectify that and move forward from there. As opposed to like, because somebody said to me, my friend who's in prison for a very long time, he actually said, Srini, you throw away your whole day when someone makes you upset. When you make yourself upset in the morning, your entire day goes to waste. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm angry. And he goes, all right, let me tell you something. He goes, I'm going to give you £10,000 in the morning. And he goes, and now somebody's took £100 from you or £1,000. So now you've got 9,000. He goes, and they're not willing to pay you back today. He goes, does that mean just because they're not going to pay you back, you throw the whole 9,000 that you have away? And I was like, no. He goes, well, that's what you're doing. He goes, those 10 minutes that you're upset in the morning, you're throwing away 23 hours and whatever's remainder of that day. And it was a good, all these things I think has always been there in my life. People have always said these small,
It's
small gems to
metaphors.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think now it's like it's got to a point where I'm like, no, actually, that means that, and that I'm piecing things together. So yeah, and that's this side of life to young people, to be honest. And it's like I know this might sound a bit judgmental, but life is so much better over here. Like, guys, come, like, just come and see it. Like, even if you just have to come and visit for the day, you just do a day trip and you off you go. At least it plants the seed in your head that, oh, okay, if ever I want to make the transition, I know over there isn't a completely scary place for me. It's not completely out of, something I've not seen. So a lot of them, instead of helping them just or telling them to change their life, I just show them one, two small things. And then it's about them saying, oh, okay, Shuni said so and so the other day. That might ring true today. Or, like just little things, talking about relationships with their mum, talking about with their families or with their friends or anyone. And a lot of young people say, oh, but my mum doesn't understand. And I say, that same frustration you have, she must have that frustration that you don't understand. So it's just a perspective thing and trying to not just be the me, I'm suffering, but putting yourself in somebody else's place and saying, okay, why are they acting the way they're acting towards me? Can I do anything to, completely be whole in myself? Now, if you're, completely whole and people are picking on you, by all means, defend yourself. But if you've created some aspect of why they're acting the way they're acting, rein it in and just look within, sort of thing. So yeah, I just tell my kids to just, all my young people, just come, just have a look at the gold that's here. Because like more time I feel like they're stepping over the treasure box, I call it, where there's gold, but the treasure box doesn't look good. But they can see silver, a mountain of silver behind them. But if they just took a second and said, wait a minute, forget the silver, what's in this little box right in front of me? And they open up, they're going to see the rubies, they're going to see all the gems in the world. So it's just about looking around, looking within, seeing that you have the power. The power is not the gold outside or the financial stability, because all that comes from when you're straight within, sort of thing. So yeah,
And that's so it's lovely because the power is within, right? And for me, the biggest power is realizing that nothing and no one can put a feeling in you, right? So we empower ourselves when we remember that. Because when I forget that, it looks like other people can make me happy, and it looks like
Mm-hmm.
other people can upset me. But when I remember that nothing's got that's all happening within my own psychological system. I'm
Right.
creating my own joy and I'm creating my own suffering,
Right.
innocently, all of that. And if the kids could, for me, I'd love to share more of that with you, and I'd love to share more of that with, with all kids, right? But you said something there, like we can have 3 or 4 negative thoughts in a row, and suddenly we're having a bad day. But we
Yeah.
didn't have a bad day. We had 3 or 4 seconds.
Literally of the entirety of that day that you have left, like you've just given yourself a blip of, because I also go into it with, if I've been happy in the morning and I laughed about something in the morning, I'm not going to spend the rest of the day laughing about it. I've laughed, the
Yeah,
emotions
yeah.
come and
That's
it's
so true.
gone. But yeah, but when we're upset, we hold it for the entire day. But when we're happy,
Yeah,
we don't hold it for the whole day. We don't walk around with the biggest smile on our face saying, I'm happy. But when we're sad, we seem to do it. So I feel like it's just about understanding your sadness and your emotion, happiness. It's all one emotion. It's all, your brain can't, I don't feel like my brain differentiates exactly between what really makes me happy or what really makes me sad. It's just an emotion. Then my experiences feed into it from my heart. Oh, that's made me upset because this happened 10 years ago and
right. So
I
we're
started
looking,
linking it.
yeah, yeah, you're bang
Yeah.
on, because we're looking outside, right? So if we
Hmm.
believe that something's got the power to make us happy or make us sad, now I believe that for 43 years, right?
Hmm.
Until I really saw my own truth into, oh my goodness, that's not the way the mind works.
Hmm.
But you're so right. If we've had a laugh and a joke and everything, we don't analyze that. We
Hmm.
don't we don't go into that conversation. Why are we laughing, Srini? Is that
Yeah. What's
because
so funny
my
about this?
mum and dad are still together? Is that because
Yeah.
like my granddad lived to be 95? Like, we just wouldn't even go there. We wouldn't do that. It wouldn't make
Yeah.
sense to that. We're just having fun and we just carry on having fun. But the moment that somebody's down, or that's where we look to, is what's making them unhappy? What is making them upset?
Yeah.
And that's the problem, I think, that innocently,
We
if you
do.
like, the world of, the world of services, and the world of
Hmm.
counseling and psychology, coming from a, when it looks at behavior only as what causes that, they haven't looked at behind the scenes, really. They're always
Hmm.
looking out, or they have been in certain times, looking to what can we hang that on, right? What
What can we
somebody,
blame it on,
what can
or
we
what can we
blame it
bring
on?
it back to?
And so there's huge, I think now, huge discoveries being made in the world of
Hmm.
psychology, in the world of mental health, which is really good news, because we're ready for a paradigm shift, because we're getting ourselves in more, we're getting ourselves in trouble. And for me, that's why I love working in this world, is that it's all
Hmm.
based on a huge misunderstanding that
Hmm.
that culturally, globally, we really believe that things on the outside can affect us, and that's just the way. I just don't see it like that anymore. It just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me anymore. And that's a great message for me to share. And when I hear, we had that conversation the other day, and I love that you were like, we've had conversations like a year ago, 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
and something we said, talked about 2 years ago, like, I seeds
Yeah.
were sown, and you're like,
Yeah.
I remembered that, like, 2 years
Yeah. It makes sense today, sort of
ago,
thing.
right?
Yeah,
I might
definitely.
not have 2 years ago.
Then yeah, but it's like, that's what I like to do with my young people. It's just, so what I say to you today might not make any sense, but there will be a point in your life where you'll come to the crossroads again, and you're gonna know when to go left and right, because I've said, or somebody else has said something to you that's now rung true to you. Definitely. Oh,
Yeah,
most
and they're
definitely.
here, and so, it's great to let them know that I don't expect. I say that to the kids. I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to
Hmm.
try and condition you to think the way I think. I'm just inviting you to be open-minded to the way we think it works. Maybe isn't the way it works.
It
And
isn't
so,
the way, yeah. And to be honest, it just, that goes back to reiterate my point of, maybe the way we think it's been working all this time hasn't actually been working for us. Like, how about we wash our hands with it over there and just come over there on this side, sort of thing,
yeah,
and see if it works over here. And I wouldn't, I don't want to put words into people's mouth, but for me, it's worked. For me, it's made me see the things you've said, stuff like no one can make me angry. No one can't make me angry the same way, you know, I don't know, like my mum watches a program in Hindi that makes her laugh, but it doesn't make me laugh. But it's the same thing on the telly though. We're not seeing two different things. She's linking it back to what experiences she has and her language understanding.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas for me, I'm linking it to, well, there's nothing funny happening here.
Mm.
Or I might say something to my mum that I find is funny. And she's like, hey, not funny. But I've said the same thing I've said to her that I've said to somebody else and they found it funny.
Yeah.
So it can't be from the outside then, because the outside's staying the same. The outside is the only factor that's the same. The only thing that's different is the people I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
So if everyone I'm dealing with is the factor that's changing, then the one thing that's the same is the outside. Like, so how can it not? It can't be anything to do with people outside. And then I also link it back to like, I must have wore these white jeans when I went to see one of my friends, and he was like, "Oh, it's a nice jean. It's nice." And then my other friend was like, "Oh, white? Why are you wearing white for with flowers on them?" And I thought, "Hey, wait a minute. I'm wearing the exact same jeans. I've not gone and done a quick swap and come to you. So what he's seen is what you've seen, but he's liked it and you've not. So it doesn't matter what gene I wore. He has a perception and an understanding. You have a perception and an understanding. And that's what you're basing your opinion on. If you based it off what it was, you would have just described it for what it was. You would have said it's a white jean with flowers on it. But you've gone to tell me, oh, I don't like white. White looks like this. And now you've put your opinion on my white jeans. But it's the same jeans. We're not looking at two different things. So yeah, I started then putting it to, you're not making me angry. My understanding and experience of what you're doing is making me angry. You know, like if somebody's never hit my car before and they hit my car, I'm going to be fearful because it's unknown to me. Whereas if 10 people have hit my car and made me angry on each 10 of the occasions, the 11th person that hits my car, I'm instantly going to be angry. Not because that person's saying sorry or being polite. It's based on internally, I'm letting it affect me because of what's happened for me in the past. That's how I now take it.
We run habits are running continuously.
Running, yeah.
Right? Habits are running. But I love that. It is, you know, the way that I phrase it is we don't feel the outside world. We feel our thinking about the outside world. And that changes moment to moment. And you know, and that's so what I might think one day about, you know, one day I really like someone, the next day they look like they're getting on my nerves. It's like, and they're the same, right? That's, and one day you're funny doing your Michael Jackson impression, and the other day it's like you just need to grow up, Srini, you know?
Yeah. But I did it just yesterday though, and you didn't have a problem with it.
So when we're little, it's kind of confusing for us that one day they all laughed at what I said, and the next day nobody laughed at what I said. And you know, if we're confused about how that works, you know, it's very easy why people become the class clown, right? Because they, you know, they want to be laughed. They like the idea. If they believe they can make everyone happy, then they want to make people happy. And
apparently it makes. I used to do that, just make people laugh, because I thought if I make other people happy, it makes me happy. But I realized quickly it's not that.
Yeah, and it's
if I want to be happy, I'm happy. Like I can be happy sitting in my own room by myself, and I could just do something to myself, and I'm like, hey, that's funny, man. Like, I just laugh to myself. It sounds so crazy when I say it to certain people, but it's the truth of the way I live now. Like I can genuinely look at myself and be like, okay, I'm all right. I'm good today. I'm happy, as opposed to this person's making me upset or that person's making me upset. And I also realize when you're unhappy, it just perpetuates for that day, because that's how your train of thought goes back to that. For example, me, if I wake up late and I'm running to work late, I seem to get all the red lights. I seem to get all the traffic. Roads that didn't have traffic are blocked today, and I have to go the long way around. Whereas I think, had I just took a step back and thought to myself, I'd have been like, okay, I'm late. There's nothing that's going to change it, whether I go 90 miles per hour or 100 miles per hour. Whichever speed I go to, I'm still late. That's already been established. So the more I perpetuate that feeling within me, everything else is just going to anger me. Like there could be a day where somebody might just cut over me and I don't have anything to say about it. But the day I'm running late and they cut me, all of a sudden, oh, what do they think they're doing? And they're not a good driver and they're unsafe, and so it's like I think it's all within. It starts with me, and then rolls
Down
forward.
the rabbit hole we can go, right? And we just
Oh,
push ourselves further and further away from our well-being and from who we are, with the stories and the having to validate, and then we have to defend.
mhm,
And so you can tell when somebody is, because we talk a lot when we're not. We defend, we talk a lot, we our
mhm,
excuses are coming. It's just how it is when we're feeling a little bit, out of sorts.
mm,
And another time we don't, we just don't have to do that. Like you say, we just state this is what happened, and we can apologize, of course. But that's us, I love what you said. It's pointing the kids back to their own wisdom. They've got everything they need
mhm.
inside of them. And if they only really saw that to be true and realized that, suddenly there's nothing to prove, right? There's suddenly they're
Mhm.
having to prove themselves in their gangs on the streets. You know, there's a lot of kids that I know that have been out there that they don't really want to be hard men and bad boys. Do you know what? They're just looking for love. They're no different to anybody else. They're looking for connection. They're
They're
looking
just looking to
for love.
belong, to identify. I'm a part of that. I'm a part of this. But
Mm,
I feel like I'm reading a book, funny enough, and it says about paradoxes. You can only want to belong when you don't know what belonging is, when you know what loneliness is, or you can only say that that person looks like they're tall to me if I have a notion of what short is to me at the moment, or like I'm comparing it to. But how about if it's all just the same thing? How about if tall and short are the same thing as good and bad, or as up and down? It's all the same concept. So
same,
it
same,
definitely, huh?
same, but different.
Same, but different. That's exactly what the book said.
There's
Oh
been
yeah,
different. And that's
yeah.
sort of like, and it is. So there's lots to learn for all of us still. Get curious. I love that. Inviting the children to get curious, introducing separate realities to the kids.
Hmm.
There's gold, like you say, you're sitting on gold. You are the gold. You're
You
golden
are the gold.
action, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Renee, what a lovely conversation. I'm going to say that's a great place to leave it,
Mhm.
and I think that we've yeah, it's been
Oh,
nice. I've enjoyed it anyway. So
yeah. So have I. Yeah. Thank you.
we'll do it again
Oh,
sometime. So
huh?
we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, sure, sure. And I'll have a look over this recording as well. Yeah, some gems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen back to yourself. Love to you. Love to everybody who's
Thank you.
listening to this. Thank you for listening, and we hope you
Thank you.
got something
So
there.
blessed.
Bye,
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, take
Bye.
care. Lots of love.